Today we have come to the end of the chapter, that is Principles of Inheritance and Variation. Till now we have read so many things about Mendelism and about the chromosomal theory, then about mutation. Today we are going to read about the genetic disorder. Although we had a preliminary idea in the pedigree analysis chapter, that is a portion in which we have learned that how the pedigree analysis help us to know a particular trait or abnormality residing in a family and to overcome such situation by means of genetic counseling. Today we are going to discuss about the two broader things which has been discussed in your NCERT, in your syllabus, that is the Mendelian disorder and one is your chromosomal disorder. The fundamental difference between this Mendelian disorder and that of the chromosomal disorder is that in case of Mendelian disorders, they are mainly determined by the alteration or change in the gene sequence of a single chromosome. Okay, so there's a mutation or alteration in the single gene that results into abnormality in an individual. That is what is called as your Mendelian disorder. So a single gene responsible for a change in the phenotypic character of an organism results into the disorder which we will be reading under the Mendelian disorder. Okay, now this Mendelian disorder can be autosomal disorder, it can be your allosomal disorder. That means sex chromosomes also can be affected or the autosomes also can be affected. Now some in the pedigree analysis we have discussed about the sickle cell anemia in detail, so I'm not going for that. The rest others like the hemophilia and the color blindness, here these two I would like to say that this one and this one, this hemophilia and color blindness, these are the Mendelian disorders which are associated with the last pair of the chromosomes in case of human beings, that is the sex chromosome and especially the X chromosome, not the Y chromosome. See, the inheritance which takes place from an individual to its next generation by means of the last pair of chromosome is known as your sex-linked inheritance. And hemophilia and the color blindness is such a disease which is a that is your sex-linked recessive disorder in case of human beings, and it is transmitted by means of the female to her son. That means the affected person will be son, and she can pass this affected gene to her daughter also, but daughter, if she is in heterozygous condition, then the abnormality does not appears in the daughter. That means she is the carrier, but she herself does not suffer. She will only suffer when she has a carrier mother and a hemophilic or a colorblind father. In that case only a daughter can suffer from this hemophilia and color blindness. Now hemophilia is known as your bleeder's disease and it is associated with the X chromosome. So in case of male, you know, there is a single X chromosome. So a single X chromosome if has that defective gene, then the Y chromosome is unable to mask that defective gene. As a result, the son suffers from this disease of hemophilia, in which that is, you know, there is cascade of proteins responsible for the clotting of blood. So a certain that is your gene which is responsible for a certain, you know, protein for this particular cascade to clot the blood is affected, and as a result from a single minor cut bleeding takes place, which can be leading to, you know, a fatal symptom, even sometimes the death of the organism. Okay, and color blindness, it is also known as your daltonism, and it is very common in case of boys rather than that of the girls. In the world population, it has been noticed that 8% of the males suffer from color blindness and female only 0.4% they suffer from color blindness. The reason is because females are generally heterozygous for this gene which carries the color blindness, and I told you that she can only be colorblind if she has a affected father, that means colorblind father and carrier mother, or else she is not able to suffer from color blindness. Okay, so color blindness is also X-linked inheritance, in which the X defective gene in the X chromosome is responsible for the appearance of this character, in which a person is either unable to distinguish between red and green color or between green and blue color. Okay, and since Y gene is unable to mask the effect, so in that case the boys, they suffer from. So it is the mother who is passing this to her son. So this is an example of crisscross inheritance, in which an opposite sex transmits it to that is the opposite sex of her next generation via the daughter. That means via the carrier female. The next diseases which has been discussed is cystic fibrosis. Now, cystic fibrosis is a autosomal recessive inheritance Mendelian disorder, in which the organism who is affected, in them that is your homozygous condition, what happens is that too much secretion of mucus takes place, and that may lead to bronchitis and a lung infection. So these are the abnormalities related to that of the cystic fibrosis. Phenylketonuria, this also I have discussed in the previous videos, that this is because of the lack of enzyme, that is your phenylalanine hydroxylase, which hydrolyzes the phenylalanine into tyrosine. So that enzyme is lacking in the people who have the affected gene, and if they are in heterozygous condition, then the abnormalities intensity is less. But in case of your homozygous condition, this phenylketonuria is a disease in which extra deposition of the phenylalanine takes place in the tissue fluid, resulting into mental retardation and that is your physical abnormalities, and this also is passed from the urine of the person, excess of phenylalanine. So these all are the abnormalities related to this disease of phenylketonuria. And thalassemia is also a disease which is related to that of your autosomes, and it is because of this is of two types, thalassemia alpha and thalassemia beta, or you can say thalassemia A and thalassemia B, in which the hemoglobin that is affected, the chain of the hemoglobin is affected, that is hemoglobin A chain is affected if a person is suffering from thalassemia A, and thalassemia B, the person's hemoglobin B chain is affected. Hemoglobin is a quaternary protein having the 4 globular protein connected with each other. So the person who is suffering from this thalassemia A, the two linked genes present in chromosome number 16 is affected, and as a result of it, the hemoglobin which is formed in them, hemoglobin is comprising of 2 alpha chains and 2 beta chains. So the alpha chains are unable to be produced. Okay, so it can also happen because of deletion of a segment of that chromosome number 16, in which these genes are present, which are responsible for the synthesis of the alpha chain. If deletion of that particular segment of the gene takes place, that may also result into less secretion or less synthesis rather of the alpha chain, and as a result the person is suffering from that of anemia. So the more the effect is, the more if both the linked genes are affected, it is a quantitative effect. Okay, so that is the problem with thalassemia A. And thalassemia B, what happens is that it is chromosome number 11, only one single gene is responsible there, that is HBB1, which is responsible for the synthesis of the beta globin chain of the hemoglobin. So if it is affected because of mutation or because of deletion, as I told you, then in that case also the beta chain is unable to be synthesized, and as a result the person suffers from thalassemia B type of abnormality, which is also a kind of fear, of course, that is your anemia. So that is the two types of thalassemia which happens because of which is also an autosomal recessive trait. Okay, so next let us move on to the chromosomal disorders. After the Mendelian disorders, chromosomal disorders, mind it is not because of a single gene, it is because of the change in the number of chromosomes. Okay, change in the number of chromosomes, it can be either a total set of chromosomes. So when it is a total set of chromosomes, we call it as your polyploidy. That means the chromosome in normal case in an organism, in the somatic body cells, have the diploid number of chromosomes, isn't it? So because of sometimes what happens is that soon after the karyokinesis, if the cytokinesis does not take place, then there can be an extra set of chromosomes. So that may lead to a chromosome number of 3n, multiple of n, that is the haploid set of chromosomes, 3n or 4n. It is generally seen in case of plants, And regarding the increase in the number of chromosomes than the normal set of the chromosomes in the somatic cells of an organism, if it is one extra, in that case the trisomy of that particular chromosome is counted, and because of that extra chromosome in the organism's body, abnormality is shown, and that we call it as your chromosomal disorders in case of your genetic disorders. So chromosomal disorders is caused due to absence or excess or abnormal arrangement of one or more chromosomes. Now, why does this happen? Perhaps you remember that during the gamete formation, when meiosis is happening, okay, when that is your meiosis 1 is happening, and that is your chromosomes are pulled apart. During that time, if non-disjunction takes place, then what happens is that a single chromosome may be going to a pole extra compared to that of the opposite pole. So now the two gametes which will be resulting, one gamete will have one extra chromosome, that is, it is having a haploid number of chromosomes, along with that it is having one extra chromosome, and the next gamete which is formed as a result of that is your dissociation of the chromosomes, it will have one chromosome less. Now this abnormal gamete which is produced, if it fertilizes or if it fuses with that of a normal gamete, that may result into abnormal chromosome number. Say for example, in case of human beings, if we consider, we have the normal number of chromosomes, the diploid number of chromosomes as your 46. Now when gamete is formed, it is 23 and 23. So suppose because of non-disjunction, if it so happens that along with the autosomes, it can happen with autosomes also, it can happen with allosomes also. So if it is happening with autosomes, suppose one of the autosomes extra has passed on to one pole and one is less in the other. So what will happen? Now it will be having 24 chromosomes in the gamete, and the other one will be having, that is your 22 chromosomes. So now when this is going to fertilize with that of the, that is your the other gamete, then it is, suppose if it is having the normal number of chromosomes 23, so in that case what is going to happen? 24 plus 23, it is becoming 47, and in the other case, if it is 22 plus 23, it is becoming 45. So if one chromosome is less in one organism and one chromosome is extra in one organism, that will show its effect on the phenotype of an organism, and that will lead to a disorder which we call it as your chromosomal disorder. Okay, in the chromosomal disorders, that is the aneuploidy, where a single chromosome, extra chromosome or less of the chromosome is found in the gamete, and as a result of fusion takes place between the other normal gamete, or even it can be abnormal gamete also, that may result into disorder or phenotypic disorder in an organism, which we call it as your chromosomal disorder. Three things has been discussed in your syllabus. One is Down syndrome, another one is Klinefelter syndrome, and the last one is Turner syndrome. Now these two Downs, that is your Klinefelter syndrome and Turner syndrome, is associated with the last pair of chromosomes. That is, non-disjunction of the last pair of chromosome results into the that is your Klinefelter syndrome in case of male, and Turner syndrome in case of female. We are going to discuss that, but first let us talk about this Down syndrome. Langdon Down in the 19th century, that is 1866, proposed or found this abnormality in case of human beings, that is the 21 number of chromosome, the 21st chromosome, trisomy of 21st number chromosome. That means when that is dissociation of the chromosome is taking place, one extra chromosome, 21 number of chromosome, fails to dissociate from each other and are taken to one pole. So if they are taken to one pole, definitely the 21 number of chromosome is already in homologous pair. Now when this gamete is fertilized by that of another normal gamete, then that normal gamete is also having from 1 to 23 all the chromosomes, so it is also having 21 number of chromosome, isn't it? So now this 21 number of chromosome, when will form pairing with already existing homologous pair in the abnormal gamete, then how many chromosome will become in the 21 number of chromosome? It will become 3, so that is why it is called trisomy. And as a result of this extra chromosome, in case of the people who have this Down syndrome, what happens in them is that they show the features like mongoloid face, that is Mongolian type, and the eyes will be smaller, then there will be a heart problem, there will be crease in the that is your palms, and they will be mentally retarded. So all these kinds of abnormality, their immune system is also weaker. So this abnormality happens because of the trisomy of 21 number of chromosome, and it is generally seen that the female are more responsible for this non-disjunction in them. When the gamete formation takes place, trisomy of 21 number chromosomes takes place more compared to that of the male. The reason, because when we have read about the chapter reproductive, that is your system in case of human beings, there you have read that during the oogenesis starts in case of the fetal stage in case of female. So it is not a continuous process. It is a somewhat lagging for obstructed for a certain period of time. Then again when puberty comes, again it comes into function. Then again it gets stopped. Again when it reaches to the fallopian tube, if it meets with a sperm, then the fertilization takes place. Then the process of oogenesis is completed, isn't it? So all those steps, since it is broken, so since it is arrested for a long period of time from the time of the birth, because after birth no new formation of that follicle takes place in case of female. So it is arrested there, and if a female who is going to be mother in the age of say 18 or 20, for that the ovum which will be fertilizing will be much more younger compared to the female whose ovum gets fertilized at the age of say 35 or 40. So the egg was arrested for 30 years or for 40 years or for sometimes for 45 years. So the chances of this non-disjunction or abnormality increases with age. So that's the reason why that is the reproductive span of the female, when it starts from that of the puberty till the 45 years. The marriageable age, although it is made by the government, 18 for the girls and 21 for the boys, but the time to have a family, the best time to have a family for a female is it should be between 25 to 30. If it exceeds, it has the problem like this kind of things can happen. Genetic abnormality may arise in her offsprings. In most of the cases, naturally only these kind of pregnancies are aborted, but if it persists, then it may, and if it is having this kind of abnormality, that is trisomy of 21 number of chromosomes, that may lead to this problem of Down syndrome. And these people, I won't say they cannot do anything of their own. They can do. There are therapies, there are particular experts to tackle with, but they will not be leading a natural or a normal life as the other people are. So one has to think of all the aspects of of life, of the reproductive system, of the organism as a whole, so that these kind of abnormalities or the possibilities which may arise in the later stages of one's life can be avoided. Next is your Klinefelter syndrome and Turner syndrome. Now Klinefelter syndrome is generally because of the non-disjunction of the X chromosome, that is when the gamete formation takes place, the last pair of chromosomes XX, it fails to dissociate. So it goes to one gamete, and when now sperm containing the Y chromosome fertilizes with this gamete, this egg cell, then it will result into what kind of chromosomal configuration? It will be 22 plus XXY. Okay, what it will be? It will be your X, X and Y. So you see, in this case, one X is extra, isn't it? So although the person will be a male, because Y is there, so definitely the person will be male, but because of the presence of the extra X chromosome in this male, he will be showing some symptoms, abnormal symptoms, which is called gynecomastia. Now what is that? He will be having developed breast. Okay, he will not have too much of beard and moustache. His voice will not be so much hoarse. His testicles will not be so well developed. Sperm production will not be there. So the the person will be sterile. Okay, reproductively the person will be sterile. So this abnormality is because of the non-disjunction of the last pair of the chromosome in case of the human beings. That is, when the egg, that is the female, is producing the gamete, the XX chromosome, the last pair of the homologous chromosome which determines the sex of the individual, fails to dissociate from each other. Non-disjunction is responsible, and as a result, when the sperm containing the Y chromosome fertilizes that egg, that results into the last pair of chromosome to be XXY, leading to this kind of abnormalities which just now I discussed. And the last one is Turner syndrome. Now this is common in case of female, where the female has one X chromosome less. That means the last pair of chromosomes in case of the female is XX, but in case of person who are suffering from the Turner syndrome, they will have their last chromosome as XO. That means they will have only a single X. Now single X will be able to express because the other X is not there. So she will be female, but she will be a sterile female. Her ovaries will not be working, ovulation will not take place, no menstrual cycle will take place, she will be having underdeveloped breast, and she will not be able to the uterus will not be, that is capable enough to sustain the pregnancy. So she cannot become a mother. So this is the way she will be having short stature. So these are all abnormalities related to the Turner syndrome, where the gamete formation, when it happens, it so happens that because of the non-disjunction, again 2X chromosome might have gone to one pole, and the other gamete will be what? It will be having the autosomes only, it will not have the sex chromosome in the haploid set. So as a result, such kind of gamete having only 22 autosomes and no sex chromosome, when fertilizes with another gamete having 22 autosomes plus one X chromosome, then definitely when the homologous pairing will take place, the last pair of chromosomes, there will be only one X chromosome, no second chromosome. So she will be a female, but she will be having those abnormalities. She will be a sterile female. So this is about the various genetic disorders which has been discussed in your NCERT. I would be suggesting you that whatever Mendelian disorders have been discussed, you should go through these Mendelian disorders with the symptoms, and it is allosomal or it is autosomal, a recessive trait, thalassemia alpha, thalassemia beta, why does it happens, what is the reason behind, everything in details. You should go each of the diseases well. Whatever is given, again I am repeating, please, you should not neglect any of them. You should not just memorize the example of Mendelian disorders. You should know these disorders, particularly that what does it happen. Okay, similarly in the chromosomal disorders also, aneuploidy and polyploidy, what does it mean? First you should know it, and then in the aneuploidy, the Down syndrome, the Klinefelter syndrome and the Turner syndrome, which is discussed, those things you have to learn properly, that why does it happen, what will be the chromosome nature in case of Turner syndrome, what will be the nature of the chromosome, that is the last pair of chromosome in case of Klinefelter syndrome. Sometimes it can come difference between the Klinefelter syndrome and that of the Turner syndrome. Then you should be able to know Down syndrome, trisomy of which number of chromosome, and as a result of that extra chromosome in the 21st chromosome pair, what effect it will be having. So why does it happens? Non-disjunction. Now why non-disjunction takes place? Why it is more common in case of female of the more age to have this kind of Down syndrome in her offspring. All those things you have to read very minutely. This chapter is very important, so go through it step by step. And much questions are coming in your board examinations from this chapter, as well as in your various other competitive examinations which you will be facing in the future. That's all for this chapter, and with this we have completed this chapter of the principles of inheritance and variation. Thank you.